Charles Horton. He's the master there's only 6 master firewalkers in the world, and Charles is one of the 6. He came from a very humble beginning. His career actually started at a flea market, and now he's a self-made multi-millionaire with a finance empire. He now also owns the Firewalking Institute of Research and Education, the school in which Tony Robbins actually studied under, if you guys are familiar with him. That's the school that Charles Horton owns and runs so beautifully. So you know what? Without further ado, I just want to tell you, Charles, that we're so honored to have you with us, myself personally, and please.
And so honored to be here as well. I've learned a lot out of it. I love the energy in the group. And first of all, I have to apologize to our ladies. I've refilled it 3 times. I promise I'll never buy another plastic bottle again. I've never done a balloon release, but now I definitely won't. So I'm getting a whole lot out of that. So what I want to do today is I'm going to give you a little background about myself. I have a presentation I'm going to do for you called Let It Be Easy. Apparently Darius said that he doesn't hire professional motivational speakers from the news report. Jake is. I am. So I'm going to have you I'm going to have you do a couple of little things. We're going to do something fun up front, and then since we can't do a firewalking exercise at this seminar, for those who choose, we're going to take an arrow, regular arrow, and take it, and we're going to, at the end of the seminar, we're going to take it and place it at our throats. You're going to take the other end up against the wall, and you're going to show me the confidence that you've got out of this seminar by thrusting yourself forward and breaking the arrow. Darius came up to me when I first got here, and that's the first thing he said is, "I'm not doing that." But then he said he has to, and he's looking really nervous right there now because he feels like he has to do the arrow. But he really doesn't. No one has to do the arrow. So the first thing I'd like to do is have everybody stand up, if you would, please. I hope you remember this. Linda did this a lot. So we have this chant that I do within my company, within our training seminars. I'll tell you a little bit about the chant in a little bit, but this is really all about programming our subconscious minds. This is a group that really believes in the law of attraction and the secret I can tell. So that's really all this is verbally and physically programming your subconscious mind. As Darius said, maybe even if you don't believe what you're saying, fake it until you make it. So as I said, you got to do it with your full body. You got to do it with your full voice. The chant is right there, by the way. If you do it like this, I feel great today, I feel terrific, I feel healthy. What kind of message are you programming to your subconscious mind? Not what you're saying anyway. So please use your full voice, your full body, and if you can't see the chant from the back, it's I feel great today, I feel terrific, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I have the power, yes, yes, yes. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready? All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1. I feel great today. I feel terrific. I feel healthy. I feel happy. I have the power. Yes, 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 yes. And we'll make that little painless. So go ahead and have a seat. That wasn't too bad, was it? No. Okay. Who's thinking about the arrow at the end, though? Who's going to do the arrow at the end? Who's not going to do the arrow at the end? Well, what I would ask you to do right now maybe is just put that out of your head. Let yourself know that you can make that decision at the end of the seminar, whether you choose to do it or not. So first of all, I'm going to tell you about my background. I've definitely had a different path than most of you. I started out more of corporate and money focused, and I'm growing to be more on the spiritual side, I would say, by finding the Firewalking Institute. One thing I've been good at all my life is making money. Why? I'm good at making money. I'm going to credit that to my stepfather. My stepfather was very, very abusive growing up. He was big into beating us up, sending my mom to the hospital, sending me to the hospital. I'll tell you the most memorable part of growing up in a negative sense, is my stepdad and my mom were fighting, and my stepdad was preparing to take his half of everything. And in order to do that, he had a chainsaw, and he was cutting the furniture in half. And he said he said he was coming back to my room and taking his half of me and my stepbrother. Now that's the kind of life that I grew up with, and I had already stolen a gun at that point. I'm in bed, laying in bed with the gun aimed at that door, ready to blow his head off if he walked through the door. Now I tell that story mainly to say that's what made me who I am today. Because if I wouldn't have had that sort of an influence, I wouldn't have been forced into a position of being independent. I wouldn't have gone out and had to make it on my own. So when growing up, about the only reason my stepbrother and I could leave the house was to work. So both of us got really motivated really quickly. When I was 13 years old, 13 to 15 years old, I was running a business of lawn mowing, pool cleaning, and at one point I had as many as 100 employees. I was making more money than my parents. My parents were taking most of the money at the time, but I was making a lot of money, and that gave me freedom to get out, and it gave me confidence to get out there and make money. Where my life really began, though, was at about 15. I'm in a flea market in Austin, Texas. There's about 400 merchants, and none of these merchants took checks. And this is back, I'm 45 now, so this is back in the 82, and everybody wrote checks for everything back then. So none of these merchants in the flea markets took checks, so I thought, what a great business. I want to cash checks here in the flea market. So I went to the flea market owner and I said, this is what I want to do. Will you build me a booth and give me free rent? And they built me up a little plywood booth in the middle of the flea market. We cemented in a safe, kind of rickety. And then my next problem was, I'm 15 years old. My next problem is I need money to cash checks with. So I went to the flea market owner again and said, listen, you have these concession stands where you're taking all of this cash. You have to pay armored cars to come in and take the cash out throughout the days. Why don't you just let me have that cash? I'll cash checks with it. I'll write you checks throughout the day for buying your cash. You take those checks and deposit them. I'll take all of these checks and deposit them. And back in those days, it all worked out really well. Yeah, I know that's check kiting, but I didn't know that at 15. I did that for 2 years. I was cashing as much as $200,000 to $300,000 worth of checks a weekend at the flea market at 10% interest, making a whole lot more money than my parents. So the next step is kind of on our topic here. It's called Let It Be Easy. And that's a concept I've had all of my life, is let it be easy. So instead of having all of this cash, all of the risk, how about just have the flea market vendors take the checks, I'll buy them from them, they pay the fee to me. At the end of the weekend, they have no risk. They have all of the extra customers that are able to buy things because they didn't take checks before, now they did. And so I turned that in to where I had a very small check verification guarantee company. I just bought the checks, took the checks. Now, I learned that if the checks bounced, I made even more money. The average check was like $100. And so my fee would be $10 for cashing the check, but if the check bounced, I'd get an extra $25. And I had the district attorney doing my collections for me. So I would send one letter. If they didn't pay, I give it to the district attorney. The district attorney sends them one letter. If they don't pay, they get a warrant filed for their arrest. They go out and get arrested, and I get my $120 or $135 back. So that really turned into developing a check verification guarantee company. I went from doing it in one flea market to the time I was 30, I was the 8th largest check verification and guarantee company in the country. So I made a goal about the time I was 18 that I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. My company at the time was doing about $20 million in revenue. I had 160 employees, but I wasn't making a lot of money. As an entrepreneur, how many of you are entrepreneurs in here? As an entrepreneur, your employees get paid first. I had 160 of them. There were plenty of times I didn't take a paycheck to make sure everybody else got paid. And the most I ever made in that business was about $60,000 a year. To most standards, that's pretty good, but probably not for CEOs of companies that are making that kind of money. So about 6 months before my 30th birthday, I'm thinking, you know, I could probably say that I am a millionaire now. My company is worth more than $1 million, but I don't feel like a millionaire. So what did I do? I made a decision that I was going to be a liquid millionaire by the time I was 30, and I had 6 months to accomplish that. About 2 months before my 30th birthday, Telecheck, the then largest check verification guarantee company, who we had talked many times before, came to me, wrote a figure north of $10 million on the table and said, we really want to get you out of the business. We're tired of the competition. And with my goal of being a liquid millionaire by the time I was 30, I decided that that was a good idea. I took my check and said goodbye. At the time, I'd been living on $60,000 a year. I had over $10 million after taxes at the end of that, and I thought I was going to retire for life. I sat down and I started day trading and just trying to invest my money. Got to be the most depressed I had ever gotten in my life because basically I turned who I was, which was that company. I took my family, which was that company, because that was my life, and I sold it for a pile of money. And so I'll be the first to tell you that money does not make you happy. Money made me very miserable, matter of fact. So I found myself soul searching, trying to figure out what I was going to do next. I found myself at a seminar where I learned that we all need a purpose in life and that we have to have a purpose to focus on. And at that point, I knew I had to start another company. So I started my current financial. We're a small lender. We have about 60 locations across the United States doing small loans. But in my mind now, that's really not the business that I'm in. I shifted entirely to where I'm in the business of helping people hit their goals. So in my company, we are formed where every single manager of a store really owns their own store. So I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, I'm a financier. I get my employees set up in their business. They get motivated to make their business work, and they win when I win. So they get a share of the profits. People that came to me started out probably making $24,000 a year on average. Our top people make well over $100,000 a year. They drive the car of their dreams within limits, of course. And I pay their gas, their insurance, so they drive their car free. They get 2 weeks paid vacation a year, and by paid vacation, I mean we pay every expense of the vacation. So you get to go wherever you want to go. We pay the expenses. And I have a condo in Hawaii. You get to go stay in my condo for free in addition on your own vacations. So I set up an environment to encourage entrepreneurs, and that then gave me passion. Before, business wasn't very fulfilling. I mean, I enjoyed doing it, but I worked from sun up to sundown. I had 160 employees. I didn't give anyone permission to do anything. Even though I had the management positions, no one had the authority to make any decisions in the company. It was pretty much so bad that if you wanted to go to the bathroom, you had to come and ask me. In this company, completely opposite. I don't have an office at my corporate office. I travel extensively. A passion that I do now is the Firewalk instructor training. And I'll tell you a little bit about that before we go into the presentation. So how did I find out about Firewalking? I do a lot of empowerment seminars for my employees, and I'm in CEO clubs, and they come and they see how I do my empowerment seminars, and they hire me to come and do their employee seminars, and I have probably 25 friends that I do this for their companies, I guess professionally. And Firewalking was always the thing that kind of eluded me. I was told to go to a Tony Robbins seminar, and I went to a Tony Robbins seminar with the intention of firewalking. I get to the seminar, it's a lot of rah-rah, doing chants, doing dancing and singing and yelling. Anyone been to a Tony Robbins seminar? A couple people, so you know what I'm talking about. So I get to the seminar, I have full intention of doing this firewalk, and then all of a sudden we go out and there's this humongous bonfire. And all of the reasons that I had in my head that I told myself why I'm going to walk on this fire went out the door. And it got filled with all the reasons why I was not going to walk on that fire. And I became very sure of that decision. I'm looking at it going, I know I can do anything in life that I want to do, but there has to be reward for the risk. That's hot. I'm not doing that unless there's a pile of $1 million at the end of the at the other end of the firewalk that I'm there. So I go through the firewalk seminar. It comes time to walk. I don't walk. I'm scared to death. I chicken out. I don't go. I get home. I feel weight has been building on my shoulders. At these Tony Robbins seminars, there's like 5,000 people, and it appears everybody's doing the firewalk. So all of these people are going across the fire, and here I am. I've accomplished all these things in life, and I can't do what these 5,000 people did. So what do? I go back, and I get to another Tony Robbins seminar. Normally my seminars are 40 to 48 hours, and I only have about 50 minutes here. So to cut to the story, I did this 8 times. I went to 8 Tony Robbins seminars with the intention of firewalking. I couldn't do it all 8 times. This gives my students a lot of encouragement when it comes time to walking on the fire for me. So I'm thinking, okay, this is just ridiculous. I'm never going to do it with 5,000 people, so I hire a firewalk instructor to come to my house. I have 30 of my closest employee friends who, I don't know how this happens, but they think that I've walked on fire every time that I've gone to a Tony Robbins seminar. I have no idea how that happened, but they think that, and so there's a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure on. So I get there, and about 6 weeks before the seminar, if I even think about it, my body goes crazy. I won't give you the gory details, but my body does not even like the thought of firewalking. So I go through this for about 6 weeks. The instructor shows up the night before, and we go out to dinner. And I'm sitting there, I'm sweating, I'm shaking, and I'm saying, please tell me what the secret is. This is really bothering me. And he says, there's no secret, it's really hot, and changes the subject. And I'm going, oh my God, what did I get myself into, and why do I do these things to myself? So the next day, I'm doing the majority of the talking. I'm up on stage, and that gets me through most of the day. It comes time for the firewalk. We're doing the chanting, jumping up and down, screaming and yelling, and all of a sudden I'm standing out there by the fire. And I'm jumping, I'm hopping, I'm looking at this fire thinking, I can't do this. Why do I do this stuff to myself? The instructor came behind me and he said, there's a nice little path, just go for it. And so for whatever reason, it hit me, and it hit my subconscious mind. I took that first step, and I walked across the fire. Now, a lot of people ask me what firewalking feels like. A couple of you are firewalkers. You've been to the Tony Robbins seminars, okay? So you can't say anything here. So how many of you, talking about what it feels like to firewalk, how many of you in here have been on a really hot beach where you're having to skip across the beach? It is nothing like that. Now, how many of you have been on a really hot asphalt? I mean, the asphalt's melting and bubbly, and there you are barefooted out there to serve a point, and it's just hurting your feet, and you're having to skip and jump across that asphalt pavement. How many of you done that? Say aye. It is nothing like that. So the best way I can tell you of what it felt like is cool popcorn. I felt absolutely no heat. It just crunched nicely under my feet. I got to the other end of the fire, and I had to stand about 15 feet away for a good 15 minutes, and I just cried. It was the most intense thing in my life. Why? Because I had made such a big deal about it. I made it this huge, big thing, all in my head. And for 8 years, I suffered because I wouldn't do what I watched 5,000 other people do. And I just realized at that point, I really can do anything that I set my mind to. And it was such a big thing for me. So I wanted to stop sending my employees to the Tony Robbins seminars. Matter of fact, I was sending them, and then I would hear stories. I'd send them like to Los Angeles, and they're from Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is their first trip ever, and they get to Los Angeles, and why do I want to sit in a seminar? So I would pay for them to be in a seminar. They'd go out and party anyway. So I decided I really needed to figure this stuff out and do it on my own. I went and got certified as a firewalk instructor first. Then I, being the alpha CEO type guy, I then decided I had to become a master instructor. So I searched out Tully Burkan, who lives up in Sonora, California, about 3 hours on the other side of San Francisco from here. And as luck would have it, he was wanting to retire, and I wanted to take over his business. So I bought him out. I trained with him about a year, and now really part of my passion is going around worldwide. I got 14 events. I was in South Africa a week and a half ago, and I'll be in Australia in a week and a half doing these empowerment seminars. The people that come to these seminars, typically 50% of them are all speakers, coaches, and trainers. Tony Robbins, T. Harv Eker, Edwin Gaines. We've certified about 2,000 instructors. Those are the types of people that come. Coaches that want to learn how to take the activities that we put in our seminars and use it with their clients. Linda was telling you earlier, she went for a firewalking seminar and came out with much, 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 much more. Tully did a fantastic job putting everything in. So you leave with a 190-page manual. It has team building exercises, how to do these things in events. We do board breaking, brick breaking, bending a metal rebar with your throat, walking on broken glass, lots of fun team building activities that are simple and easy to do, how to work within groups, basically how to get people to remember what you talk about. And I was at a Tony Robbins seminar that made all of this sense to me when Tony, down in San Diego, was trying to get going. He was doing the fake it till you make it. He buys this big castle, and the first probably 2 years worth of seminars that he has like 10, 15 people in it at the most. And it wasn't until he started doing firewalking that made a big impact on people that really got the motivation going, and now he does events in front of 10 and 15,000 people pretty regularly. So that's kind of my background. I want to talk to you now about his book called Let It Be Easy. We're going to really just kind of run through these slides. I'm going to tell you a little bit more from my background in it, and then we'll break some arrows with our throats. Yes? Okay. So in Let It Be Easy, his point number one in obtaining an extraordinary life is speaking the truth. I will tell you that I was a big fake it and make it guy when I was 18 through probably about 25. I think from my childhood, I felt like I had to build up my ego because my ego from when I was growing up was never really developed, and I made up everything. I mean, I had this whole fictional life that wasn't, I'm amazed I even remembered any of it at the time. I was able to get people to invest in me really easy. People liked me, they would write me checks. I had before I kind of skipped parts of the story, I went and opened other check cashing places and other flea markets as part of the progression to get to the check verification guarantee company. But in doing that, I had people writing me $100,000 checks, and I got millions of dollars out of people. They liked me, they trusted me, but they would catch me in lies, and I would start losing that ability to go to them. So round about 25, I realized that if I'm very honest, no matter how bad the truth is, that I will keep people's respect and I will keep relations long term. So now, fast forward, I started this company. Well, I'm sorry, I sold Smart Check, my check verification guarantee company, and my family is full of people that are ex-millionaires. They would make the money, lose the money, make the money, lose the money, and I never wanted to be an ex-millionaire. That just wasn't in my vocabulary, so my thought process was everything that I sold the business for would go and get protected, and that's just going to be an investment fund. I took $100,000 out to start this business, and then I went to people at first. People invested, and then at some point banks would start investing. So I got a good group of investors around me. I made them a lot of money. I always told them the truth, whether it was good or bad. And about 6 years ago, we ran into a situation where come holidays, my business needs a whole lot of extra cash. People borrow more money around the holidays for Christmas, and my inventory of loans outstanding pretty much doubles. So I needed $6 million to go into Christmas. I had about $3 million, and we were applying for the bank increase for that period. Bank said no problem. However, because of the timing of getting everything approved, you're going to get the money January 15th. That wasn't very helpful going into the holiday season. I needed the money December 15th. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out how I'm going to liquidate my stocks, go to my other money, and be able to fund my Christmas, when one of my long-term investors and board members calls me up and says, "Hey, Charles, how much do you need?" And I said, well, I need about $3 million. And he said, "How much do you want to pay for it?" And I said, you know, in my mind, I'm willing to pay a lot because we make a lot on the money, but let's let him speak first. I said, "How much do you want to pay?" He said, 10% interest is fine. That was a whole lot less than I was planning on paying, so I said, great. He said, "I'll wire you the money today. Get your attorney," I have an in-house attorney, "get your attorney to write the loan documents and get them to me whenever." So I got this guy to send me $3 million without any documents whatsoever. He trusted me enough to have my attorney write up the documents, and those are the type of relationships you get when you build trust in people, you tell them the truth, and you do what you say you're going to do. The other point to this for me from Firewalking is don't accept other people's truths. The story that I like to give on this comes from Firewalking. How many of you are kind of more the scientists, PhDs, doctorates? Just one of you, okay? So if you study and you look up on Google about firewalking, you will find out the reason that you can firewalk 20 years ago was called the Lindenfrost principle. The Lindenfrost principle is, you know, if you lick your finger, stick it on an iron, it sizzles, you don't get burned. That's the Lindenfrost principle. So scientists 20 years ago said that you would get nervous as a firewalker, your feet would sweat, or the firewalk instructor would put water on the ground before you walked. But what they didn't consider is that some people don't sweat, and some people don't, or some instructors don't put water on the fire ahead of time, and the fire lengths can be anywhere from 6 feet to 40 feet. And even if you were sweating at the beginning of 40 feet, you wouldn't be at the end. It's all gone. So science pretty well now says it isn't that principle that's the issue. The issue today is called the conductivity theory. And so the conductivity theory says that wood coals give out heat at a much slower rate than, say, metal. And that as long as you're on the coals for less than a second, then you shouldn't get burned. By the way, the coals that we walk on are anywhere from 800 to 1200 degrees. Skin starts to melt at 130 degrees. Wood that had been left the next morning would still be around 180 degrees, enough to burn you. So they say as long as you're on the coals for less than a second that you won't get burned, and this same scientist says it's impossible to do fire standing. Well, in our executive course, we teach fire standing, and I will stand on the coals as much as 5 minutes during a song after a firewalk. So there's really no scientific explanation to that. Matter of fact, again, that same scientist says that's impossible, and we've invited him to come out and watch. I don't really have a good answer to that. I will tell you why. I will tell you that I have seen people walk and not pay attention to my seminar and believe they're not going to get burned, and they don't get burned. So I don't put any magic that I'm doing any hocus pocus on you during the seminar. I think what I have to say is pretty important, but some people may not. People that believe they can do it and not get burned typically do it and not get burned. People that have a disbelief and think they're going to get burned can get a little teeny tiny kiss. So to me, as an entrepreneur, that's my message in firewalking, is not to accept the reality of other people. When I was growing up with my check verification guarantee business, I would go to trade shows where the people that were in the industry, you know, I'm like Jake's age or something, I'm 22, I'm running around at trade shows with a pretty big company. All the rest of the guys are 45, 50 years old or older, wearing their polyester suits. And they're all saying that you have to have major money behind you to be in the check guarantee business. And the only thing I could say to them is, thank God I didn't know that, or I would, because I didn't have any money behind me. I wouldn't have been able to be in the check guarantee business if I would have known that I couldn't do it. So my counterpoint here is don't accept other people's truths, figure it out on your own. Number two, ask for what you want. 15, 16 years old, I go up to a flea market guy, say, give me free rent. He gives it to me. I say, give me a couple of $100,000. I can't even drive. I have a driver because I can't get a driver's license. I'm old enough. He gave me the money. What's the worst thing that can happen if you ask for something and they say no? They're not going to take out a gun normally and blow your head off. Depends on who you're asking and what, I guess, but normally they're not going to do that. So be bold, ask for what you want, go for what you want. Next point is focus on what you want, not what you fear. Focus on what you want, not what you fear. Another way I put this is I say, do not put fuel on something you don't want to burn. So in my example, we're in kind of a contentious industry. Some attorney generals don't want us in business. In one of my states, I had been fighting with one for 10 years. I kept winning. She decided she was going to, with her own pen, write a rule that would put us out of business. Many of my competitors just went out of business, and we decided we would sue and we would fight. We did. We won, and we were in the right there. So focus on what you want, not what you fear. Do not put energy into something that you do not want to happen. Put the energy into what you do want to happen. Number 3 is keep your agreements. This goes back to point number 1 too. When you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say it, do it. When my friend Jim wired me the $3 million, that was more binding or empowering for me than any amount of documents would ever be. The fact that he trusted me to send me that amount of money, or any amount of money, without even a signature, there was no way that he was not getting paid on the exact date that I said that he would get paid on. Developing those kind of relationships around you change your life. If you don't have them, people aren't going to respect you. And if you want to get places in life, it's really not what you know. And I do preface all of this by saying I tell my background not to boast. I barely got out of high school. My family was poor. We lived in mobile home parks. When I left Austin, where I went to high school, and drove up to Dallas, I was driving in a $500 Chevy Chevette, and I had everything that I owned in the back of the car. I did not come from money, and I'm not exceptionally smart. I barely got out of high school. Anybody can do it if you set your mind to do it. Strive to under-promise and over-deliver. In every activity that I do, that is my motto. In the Firewalk instructor training course, I advertise maybe 50% of what we do. And I'm training speakers, coaches, and motivators mostly that are already experienced. They're already out there, and those are the people that come to our seminars. So I have to really stand up to impress these people. And that's how I do it. We have a proven, tried, over 20 years approach of stepping people through things. If you knew some of the things that we do, you wouldn't even show up. And so I beg people not to say everything that we do so you get the experience when you get there. But frankly, when you get in this environment that we teach you how to produce, we start you off doing really easy things. And by the end of the seminar, you're doing some stuff you would have never thought you would have done in your life. And you love it, you feel confident in it, and you don't have anything holding you back anymore at that point. Is that pretty accurate, Linda? So strive to under-promise and over-deliver. When I'm working with investors, they are priority. At first I was investing in individual stores. I will tell you that if one of those individual stores would have failed, I would have taken money from my own stores and made sure they got their money back in a decent return. That's the only way you get people to keep coming back and want to do business and help with you. Under-promise and over-deliver. Number 4, take responsibility for your experiences. I told you about my upbringing, and I told you about my upbringing for a point. A lot of people had tough lives growing up. I'm not in it for a competition. The point that I want to make to you is that you are responsible for how you take every experience in your life. I could have easily taken that experience and been a criminal all my life, or been habitually in prison all my life. That type of background, for a lot of people, leads you to a life of crime. I chose to have a different mentality about it. I chose from a very early age to say, I thank God that I had the stepfather that I had, because I would not be who I am today if he would not have pushed me into that position of making myself independent. Take responsibility for your lives. No one else is responsible. You're it. The other side of that is you're also the designer of your own life. Create a huge, exciting, extraordinary life for yourself. The only thing that can hold you back is your own mind. Dream big and go for it. Okay, 7 ingredients for an extraordinary life. So 1, add financial security to your life. I find myself in different seminars, and I know not everybody is money motivated. I'm probably on the upper end of money motivation, but I will say there's been so many things that have happened in my life that having some amount of financial security has to be good for everybody. So things, for instance, my mother, she lived with my stepfather. They were truck drivers. He worked on oil platforms. For the 10 years after I got out of high school, she went with him. She didn't have a cell phone. I didn't hear from her for 10 years. If she would have died, I would have never known. And we became pretty separated because of that. Well, she showed up after those 10 years, suddenly called and said, I've left Chuck. And I said, well, do you want to come down for Christmas? I haven't seen you in a long time. She didn't have any money. I sent her a plane ticket to come down. Well, the day before I was supposed to pick her up, she shows up in a van with everything she owns, telling me that she's homeless. And so for the last, 10 to 15 years, I've supported her. And if I wouldn't have been able to do that, my mother would have been homeless. That would have been very, very, very sad. I'm glad I'm in the position that I'm in so I could support her. So add financial security to your life. I coach pretty much anybody that comes and asks me, honestly. But a lot of my employees' kids seem to come to me right around 18. So I have this one employee that had been with me 10, 15 years. She worked in Dallas. She came over with her kids to my house a lot. And her son, when he became 18, came to me and said, listen, Charles, I want you to coach me. And I said, great. I put him to work in one of my stores, and I was paying him roughly $24,000 a year, $2,000 a month. And we started working together basically on financial goals. I taught him entrepreneurship, and I had him sit in on my management meetings so he could see what was going on. At the end of his first year working for me, where he made $24,000, he had $40,000 in the bank. Kid's 18 years old. He's 22 right now. He's just right at $500,000. He's gone off. He started his own business. And it really isn't about money. I was telling this story to Cece the other day, and she said right away, it's really not about the money. Think about everything else that he got out of that. Yes, he has confidence. He has the full power and the ability to know he can go accomplish anything he wants to. At that age, he has an amazing amount of security. His friends and his family looks up to him because of all that he's accomplished. And it's all just an attitude. For him, instead of going out and partying with his friends, instead of going on trips with his friends, we made it fun to invest in stocks. So we would have games. He would pick his stocks, I would pick my stocks, and we would have comparisons on who did the better jobs with the stocks. And in that, he probably in 5 years, he probably put $100,000 of his own money in and had $500,000. And now he's out developing his own little app company, and I'm really excited for him. He's gonna do well. Take the discipline, and even if it's only $10, even if it's only $50, start saving money right away. Add good feelings to your life. Do things that are fun. Coming to these environments, these are fun, good feeling events. Have hobbies that make you feel good. For me, I love public speaking. When I go out and go to these FITs, the Firewalk instructor trainings that I do, I live to do these events because people come in one person and they come out an entirely different person, and then I watch them on Facebook, and years later they still have their firewalking pictures up there. They're still telling stories about their events. I've met many of you that are Linda's friends and have come up to me and said, you know, she does events all the time, but the one she talks about all the time is firewalking. And that feels really good. That makes me know that what we're doing is good. Add self-worth to your life. I'm coaching another family that had been working for me. Their son is 19 years old. He's been arrested 3 times this year for marijuana possession. And then the last time he was arrested, his friends run Xanny bars, which apparently is like a Xanax times 10. And they didn't know what they were doing. They were out of their minds. They went to a Walmart store and they decided to steal a video game. And for stealing the video game, since there were 3 or 4 of them involved, it is organized crime. And so he has a felony on his record now for organized crime for stealing a $60 video game. He can't get a job. His parents don't trust him. They're kicking him out. So what do? I bring him in and I work to give him self-worth, because he feels like he's nothing anymore. His parents are kicking him out. They don't trust him. He needs a change. He needs somebody to trust him that isn't his family. He needed the rock hard thing. I mean, he needed to fall hard. And so I trusted him. I gave him a job. I'm giving him the self-worth. I'm coaching him, telling him he can do whatever he wants to do. And next time we meet, I'll tell you how that story is going. That's only 2 months in. But it's important to know that you're valuable and you have things to offer the world. Add active compassion to your life. You got to look for people to help. For me, firewalking is a big part of how I look to help people. The way I look at it is I'm training roughly 200 people a year that go out, and hopefully each of them help a couple of thousand people a year. But within my company, we take all sorts of, each store picks their own things to give back to. So sometimes we look for individuals that are having a hard time, like in Albuquerque recently, a family got their whole apartment taken out by a fire, so one of our stores took that as their project. They went out and raised some money, they got free furniture, they got 3 months of a free apartment, and we basically set them up for 3 months to work. Another store picked a hospital in Albuquerque, and the children's ward didn't have games or anything for the kids to do. We went in and bought games. We bought them, I think it was 50 child seats, so the hospital could give out child seats for people that needed it. Having our employees do this gives them the good feeling that they're out doing good things for others as well. Number 5, add creative expression to your life. I'm kind of sad in that I'm not like into pottery or sewing. I do love scuba diving. I love the water, and so I was really touched by the turtles eating the plastic, and also I'll never forget the turtle getting harmed by the plastics. So, but other than that, I'm big into the stock market. But whatever it is in life, you can't be all work. You got to live a balanced life. Make sure you're doing things that allow your creative side to expand. Add attentive awareness to your life. Meditation, just being present. This is something that even though I've been teaching now for probably 15, 20 years, this has just come to be so meaningful to me, because now I really believe that I can live in the present. I don't worry about anything in the future. I know that I'm going to be okay. I know everything works out, and so I don't stress about anything. Owning a business with 160 employees, $20 million in revenue, there's a lot of things I could stress out about if I was looking for the things to stress out about. And I lived for years where I would just get worked up. This finally hit home, and sometimes you got to teach something over and over until it sinks into your own mind. But I now no longer feel stress about the future. I know everything's going to be okay. Does that mean I don't work towards the future? No, but I live in the present. I enjoy where I am, and I don't worry about the future, and I don't worry about the past. 7, connect to a higher power, whatever that is for you. Connect to God, connect to the universe, whatever that means to you. This is For those of you that have been to Tony Robbins seminars, if you're going to start your own business or if you want to create friendships, this is the last thing I'm going to cover before we break some arrows. If you work towards creating these 6 needs and filling these 6 needs in everyone around you, you will develop die-hard relationships, die-hard employees, followers, whatever you want to call it. If you meet one of these needs in somebody, you're going to have a decent friend. If you meet 2 of these needs in somebody, you're going to have a really good friend. If you meet 3 needs, man, you got a loving relationship if there's that attraction there. Meet any more, it's just people you're never going to get to leave your side. So these needs are certainty, meaning like if you're employing somebody, they know they have a job, they know they have their needs covered, the roof over their head. Variety means things change. They like change. Like, for example, in a relationship, you come home and say, hey, guess what? We're going off to the ocean this weekend, and we're going to have a good time for a little surprise weekend. Within my company, you can come to a meeting like this. We do these boot camps, and for variety, this keeps you on your feet. If you've been with me a while, everybody knows that they could be picked at the last minute to get up and talk for 30 minutes or more on a topic that is business related. Significance. Everybody needs significance in life. I think that's probably what I didn't have coming out as a child, and that's why I created a whole bunch of lies, because I created a life in order to build significance to myself. Connection and love. All of my employees know that I care about them. We do personal development seminars. We do business seminars. I have everybody into my house. I'm approachable. I'm everybody's friend. We talk on the phone all the time. We go on trips together. And in my industry, theft, employee theft is normally 3 to 4% of revenue. In my company, it's less than 0.1%. Turnover in my industry is generally very high. In my company, it's very low because I work to meet these needs in all of my employees. The last 2 are some of the most important ones. Growth. You got to be able to grow and become better. Part of our organization is we're a train-the-trainer organization. You get up and teach at any time. That builds your significance, because if you're really good at something, you get to teach it. And then contribution. I'll give you an example of one of the things that we do in our boot camps is we get up on the last day at 3 o'clock in the morning. We go down to the Salvation Army. There's like 60 of us. We take over the kitchen. We take over the lines, and everybody does a feeding the homeless. We pay for all the food that day. Around Christmas, most of our groups get into Tony Robbins' basket brigades, where we get together, we find out families that are in need, and then the employees take baskets of a full basket for Thanksgiving down and gives them to the families. So our employees work through all of those. So that's my quick little seminar. Now let's talk about breaking a arrow with your throat. Thank you.